Testing.
Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades with us, David Smoke and Craig Smoke on 365 Sports. So I have to start with this. It was great to see you last night. Have you played Connect Four prior? Did you play last night in the tournament, the Connect Four tournament?
No, I sat out the tournament, but there was a big competition with men's basketball when we were in Indianapolis, and we ended up winning the national championship. So in the bubble, there was a Connect Four tournament within the basketball program. So that was my first experience playing. I'm disappointed to say, and probably proud to say, all at the same time, that I lost in the quarterfinals to Davian Mitchell.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Yeah, well,
yeah,
he plays good defense when you were trying to be offensive with that game. Last night, Scott Drew beat me. It didn't. I guess it took him longer than maybe most people thought. I don't know who won it all last night, but that was kind of fun. That's a very, very fun game to play. I'd never played it before, but that I was kind of curious about that. All right, so yeah.
So let me since you put it out there, Scott ended up winning the championship. He beat Nicky in the Final Four. Now, I don't recall Scott winning the championship in the bubble. I think that was actually Davion that went on to win the championship. So, but it was a good night last night for Scott Drew.
How often do you still think about just that time period in the bubble? I remember coming off of it. Obviously, the ending was as super, storybook as you could get, but I recall you fondly reminiscing on just that time period and how unique that was. Do you revisit that in your head very often at all?
It's interesting that you asked that, Craig, because just this past weekend, Commissioner Yormark was asking me about it, and so it was really cool just to reminisce again and think fondly about it. And certainly, obviously the championship was incredibly special, but man, the time spent with the student athletes, with all of the staff, the coaches, etc., the managers, the GA, just all of it was an incredibly special time, and it was unique because you were there, in a hotel with other teams and being able to connect with them, and this is a large industry, but it's a small industry. And if you've been in it long enough, you meet some wonderful people along the way. And so that was really a cool time to just get to connect with some people that you hadn't seen or been able to visit with in a while. So really, really a special time.
Of my 43 years in this business covering events, maybe my first Super Bowl was obviously going to be special. But I got to tell you, that week, and I was there, and I stayed at a hotel, had a suite and all that. Just a regular, nice place, but that was incredible. The way that city, Indianapolis, was able to make all that work, to me, was maybe didn't get enough credit.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, the city of Indianapolis did an unbelievable job. I thought, Danny Gavitt, vice president for basketball, was brilliant, him and his staff, and just the way they pulled that off. And again, that, is probably, an event that, or the way that event played out, probably will never happen again. At least I hope it doesn't, because of a pandemic, but, it was just a really, really special time. And, I think about Coach Brooks and spending, him being able to spend time, with his dad, who at the time was on the Houston staff before a game, when we played them in the Final Four. So there's a lot of stories like that. And so, it will be, when I eventually retire from this business, I can guarantee you that's going to be, one of the top 5 most special memories that I will have.
So I've known this for a couple of weeks and was trying to just make sure I had all of this correct. You guys are Nike. I believe there was a shoe line that was released, but perhaps Baylor was not a part of that. And then also you're trying to maybe look outside the box a little bit with an alternate, football or other sports uniforms that might be, I don't know, anthracite or something like that? Where is all that in play right now?
Yeah. So, Nike has been, a great partner. And, I'll take you back to, what was it, 7 years ago? My first 3 days, within my first 3 days, we did not have, Baylor did not have an all sports deal, right? We had some sports with Nike, and we had some other sports, at least 6 other sports with another apparel company, shoe company. And, literally within 3 days, that other company, called me and told me they were dropping us, because of everything that had happened. And so, we really had no options at all. And so I reached out to Kit at Nike, who I'd known and had just gone through a deal with them at Missouri. And, Nike, decided to enter into an all sport agreement with us. And again, we had no leverage. We had nobody else. And, the agreement that we ended up signing with Nike was very similar, if not maybe even a little bit better than the Missouri agreement. And so I'll forever be grateful to Nike, because they took a chance on us when nobody else would. And so they've been a great partner. And then, shortly thereafter, they do not do this with all of their schools, but, we went through the branding exercise and the new logo and the colors and all of that. So, they've been a terrific partner. And so, their footwear program, we certainly understand, the level of interest from Baylor fans. And, we've communicated, believe me, we've communicated that to to Nike over the past few years. There's a couple fans that I really would have liked for them to call Nike directly. But Nike has certainly, responded positively, and they certainly see the value of Baylor being part of the footwear program. And so it's something that, it's not going to happen today, but it's something we are mutually working toward. And there's some nuances without getting into all the contractual things that I can't disclose, but there is a timing component of when, we're able to do all of this, and certainly, the aspects of this agreement. So, we know, two things. One, our fans will deliver when it comes to shoe sales if Baylor is added. And I also know this, the Pegasus shoe, which I run in every day, would look really, really good in green and gold. So
yeah.
Well, it will happen, and we're working on it. And, we've had conversations about some additional colors. And so all of those are things that, again, we're having or in conversation with Nike. And, I go back to, they didn't have to sign a multi-year long-term contract with us. And certainly could have signed it, pennies on the dollar, and they did not. And so just really grateful to them, and the fact that they took a chance on us.
When you called them during that time, and of course it was there were thunder clouds and dark clouds everywhere. Did you think they would work with you, or was that something where you weren't sure?
Yeah, I really thought it was a long shot, to be honest with you. And I think maybe the appropriate way to describe it is I maybe didn't call them, I begged them. And that was an interesting time within the first 3 deals.
Yep.
First 3 days, I got that phone call. By the way, that other apparel company, the vice president, was a friend of mine. And,
wow.
But that was the decision that they made as a company. And then, within the first 3 days, we had one of our biggest national sponsors, decide not to continue their agreement. So those were some trying times, and just grateful to the people that stepped up and believed in us and have stayed with us.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. You have this beautiful pavilion across the Brazos, maybe a quarter of a mile from us. You have the brand new football ops building going up. You're renovating the indoor. I mean, there is a lot going on, and there has been this constant churning of dirt for the longest of time. Where are you when it comes to funds in operation? I know you can't give me specific numbers, but is it a challenge right now to try to meet the demand of all the money you're spending?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I'm as you're asking the question, my mind's racing. How do I, certainly best answer it? And I would say a couple things. One, we're blessed because we've been, financially sound, and certainly in a really good position. My 7 years here. One of the keys, to all of that was, when we went through COVID, and we had a $20 million revenue deficit, just because you weren't playing games in front of full stadiums, et cetera, throughout the entire year, and so we had built up some healthy reserves, and we're able to mitigate that. And so I would say that we were one of the the few just across the country that we were able to navigate and get out of that in a really, really good position. What has happened since now is a lot of things are just getting more expensive. The deregulation, when you think about NCAA, and so the deregulation of food, the deregulation of now more accountable coaches. So no volunteer coaches, more accountable coaches. I think, we added 14 positions. And so you have that, the travel in terms of, what we can do for travel with student athletes. And, that deregulation continues to happen. And then, now all of a sudden you throw name, image, and likeness in, NIL into the equation. And so how do you do that without cannibalizing, some other revenue areas, specifically, i.e. the Bear Foundation, which helps offset or covers the cost of scholarships. So all of that is a tug and pull, and then, raising monies, to build the facilities that you talked about. And so I would tell you that operationally, our budget has grown, and it's grown every year, and we've, finished, every year in the black. And so, it's in a good place. But, I think like it's always been, when you think about the Big 12, I would, confidently say that we're in the upper half, but we're certainly not number one or number two. And, we're gonna continue to be strategic and be really thoughtful about how we spend our monies, where we spend our monies, how we invest them. That, I promise you, that is a daily conversation. And so, making sure that our dollar goes, maybe further than anybody else's. And we try to solve problems. I think there's organizations, right, that, the first way they solve a problem is by throwing more money at it. And, that's probably opposite of how we do it. And, so that's where we're at as a department. I would say that we're in a good place. In the future, as deregulation continues and we think about TV contracts, discrepancy, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, all of that. Yeah, that certainly, is on my mind full time. And, how do we continue to navigate that and make sure that we're not surprised and that we can continue to be nationally relevant. So that is a really long answer, and I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. And I know that it's McLean Stadium, and I may have asked you this before. I know what it's like. I know that you had mentioned there would never be, like, for example, if you needed to come up with a way to make more money, there are certain things you don't do at McLean Stadium. For example, selling alcohol, that will never change, will it?
No, that won't ever change. And, it's, we've tried to be thoughtful, and I'll give you an example. For the first 5 years, we didn't increase ticket prices for football. There were, and there are places that increased, every other year or every 3 years. And so, we were thoughtful and careful. Our fans, the Baylor family had experienced a lot, and certainly when I came in, it wasn't a united family whatsoever. And so, we were thoughtful about when and how, and even when we increased the number of games at home, within those first 5 years, we didn't increase prices. We didn't do it with men's or women's basketball. We at the bottom three in the Big 12 when you think about season ticket pricing for both our women's and men's programs. And now that we're going into a new facility, yes, we're increasing ticket prices, but we're not increasing them to the top of the league. We're now we've moved from bottom to mid range, and so we know we're asking our fans, our donors, our season ticket holders, right? We're asking them to do a lot, and we're stretching them, and grateful that they've responded in a really, really positive way. But we know and get and understand we're asking them to do a lot.
Mack, in regards to the playoff, last week you talked about the revisiting that needs to be done because of all of the realignment that's occurred. But I'm sure you're also well aware of the fear that a lot of people have out there that retooling it just means that it's going to benefit the two conferences that seem to benefit the most from most rules changes. From a Big 12 perspective, there's not really any way to strong arm, what you would like to see. But how aware are you guys, as you were also hyper aware of the whole realignment situation this past couple of years, but how aware and how do you kind of protect your interest when it comes to, reopening playoff discussion, but also ensuring that it doesn't leave more people out than there were to begin with?
Yeah, Craig. Appreciate the question. I think I think now that Commissioner Yormark has a year under his belt, I think Brett, I think he'll be probably more vocal and maybe even with the additions of the four Pac-12 schools and being at 16, right? I think his voice will resonate well in the room amongst the A5 commissioners. President Gee from West Virginia, he is one of my favorites, and he sits on the management council, and so I think he's got a really, really strong voice, and so I think we'll be represented well, and there's the nuance, right, of certainly looking out for the Big 12 and what's best for the Big 12, and at the same time, what is best for college football. And so I have great confidence we'll hold our own, and we won't acquiesce to a system that favors a conference more than the other. The reality is, like you said, it's changed, and right now it's the six highest seeded conference champions that have automatic bids, and so that number, needs to be tweaked, and how that impacts, the rest of it remains to be seen. So they'll get to work at it, and they're going to have to get to work at it sooner rather than later, this fall. But again, I think we'll land in a good place.
Mack, one more thing. I also mentioned about revenue. Has anyone ever approached you, a company, a business, about the naming rights to your football stadium? And has that ever been a discussion you've had with Drayton McClain Jr.?
No, I mean, the name of that stadium will forever remain McClain Stadium, and we won't ever refer to that stadium as anything else. But we've done some outside the box things and ideas, and when we announced the championship partnership with Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, which again, so grateful to Mike, Eric, and that group. But we'll continue to explore all those different areas. I'm proud. I really am. I'm proud of our team of Jovan and her team, and Cody Hall and his team, and everybody that's been involved in terms of revenues. We have had historic revenue gain over the last 6 years, and what's offset that is we've also had historic expenses. I didn't even mention Alston, and that was this past year was the first year that Alston was part of our budget, and that was an additional $2.2 million in terms of monies that were provided to our student athletes, and so we've been able to continue to handle and manage all of the deregulation, and we're going to have to continue to figure out how to do it in the future as well.
If you don't mind me asking you this question, Jen Cohen at Washington is on her way to USC. And I would think that anytime there's an opening for an athletic director position, that someone, not everybody, but most people would want to contact you to get your interest. It brought me to this question. Do you ever, of everyone I've ever talked to about the role you play, not that there aren't other strengths, but that you're a crisis management type guy. Is that something that you always have to have crisis to feel like that you're locked in, or would you ever get bored when things are good?
Yeah, that's a question that I'm just going to be really transparent that I battle and I ask myself all the time. This past August 15th, it's been 7 years. Mm-hmm. The longest the longest amount of time I've ever been, any one place as an athletic director. And so that's been, I think the internal battle for me. President Livingstone and the Board of Regents have been, so good to Amy and I and my family. And, how do you continue to be relevant? How do you continue to lead when you've been there for, maybe a longer period of time than where you've been at other places? And, how do I do it? How do I not become bored? Because I can become bored really, really easy. And, probably, one of my strengths is that, I can have 18 things going on at one time. And one of my weaknesses is that I will have 18 things going on at, one time. And so, I think the constant change, that we're in right now with the NCAA, whether, again, it's the deregulation, it's the name, image, and likeness. Do we have different tiers coming up here in the future within Division One, and what do you need to be, do at the top tier? The whole idea of, will we get to a point in time, revenue share with student athletes, employees, all of that. So I think all of that is probably helped those, challenges and sort of crises in front of us that we're gonna have to navigate. But I don't know what it would be like to, be at a place where I guess, you're on cruise control. That's not who I am. It's not how I lead. And so, that's, just been trying to figure that out. And then my role, I've been blessed to be part of the conference stuff. And so, that has also helped as well. So hope I answered it.
Mack, thanks for your time. We appreciate it very much. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. And the story